Hello. For those of you that were on time, I truly apologize. I'm in a bit of a state of shock due to the information that is coming out about the sex trafficking and tying, t- adding two and two and coming up with the reality of what it is that I live, my family lives, and what this country is going to find out about that is going to be very destructive. It's just, I'm going to go ahead with the map first because I can't unwrap myself from that and from all the sex trafficking stuff. I am Frances Fox. I was born into a military mind control program that was an extension of a Nazi program. And I think that that's the stuff that's going to come out hot and heavy, that's going to be extremely distressing. Having to do with shock and horror and shame. Remember, shame is what makes us the weakest. So, this is the map that I drew today. And we still have the Galactic Federation, Star of David, Talisman of David protection, but it is rattled. And I did not intend on, I was just sketching as usual, but it makes sense. And what I tried to sketch, which I wasn't very good at, was it's like a bomb went off in the center of the United States due to some information that's coming out. I don't remember who it is that has the Epstein list, and they're saying they have to redact it because of national security. It's not national security. It's national shame. Okay, those are two different things. Two different things. National security is protect the nation so that we don't get taken down from the outside. This is we're going to get taken down from the inside when people get all of this information, a lot of which I have. And I've given it out. And people come, they don't really believe. This whole thing of not believing because it's not to your advantage to believe, this needs to stop. Instincts need to be a lot more operational, and we would have never reached this point. How many years have we been dealing with all the sex trafficking thing? Why is it that everybody's afraid to put it out? It's because the information in there is so shocking, and it's not necessarily the names, but the stuff that was done. Okay, so we already know everybody got raped a lot. Is that what it is? No, no. Okay, last night, Adam Schiff, the senator that was listening to my chats, I don't know the man. And about a month ago, I could feel, Adam Schiff, you're listening to my chat? I could feel it. I'm a really good psychic. Okay, this is no time for me to be understated. And then after that, he started to visit a lot in the middle of the night, doing all this weird, esoteric, sick stuff that really didn't have anything to do with sex per se. And then he kind of disappeared, and he was back last night. We in a weakened state and very aggressive in the sense of wanting to get to me. I had the Mantrista movement. We got together afterwards, and I had them read it. And he wanted something from me. I have something that he needs from me, and because of his position in the country, I would have assumed that he would have known more than I do. What is it that I know that he needs that he doesn't know? Anyway, I know most of you won't believe this, but because your belief system is limited to the physical dimension, one lifetime you were born, then you die, and your spirit, who the heck knows where it goes? No, 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 that's not the way it goes. We are a multi-leveled, multi-dimensional planet. There is no time in the other dimensions. Time is only on this dimension that we live in. So things that happened during the Egyptian times and other times are right there. So why am I saying this? Because last night, Anubis, the Egyptian god of, I understand he's not the god of the underworld, but he's very much the most important person in the underworld. He's the one that supposedly puts your heart on a scale and then he puts a feather on the other scale. And if your heart weighs more than the feather, then you're not able to go to wherever. I guess to the light, but they don't call it that. I have to go back and read up on their whatever language. But it was translated, so it's probably all messed up. So he showed up and he was taking care of Shift, believe it or not. I'm not going to be trying to remember what I can tell this group of people in my English chat and everything that I can tell the people in my Spanish chat. I can't keep up the two-face, which is what we've done in this country, the two-face, and it's not a need to know issue. So anyway, Schiff was here last night. He's still too operational, Trump. He's still too operational in the other dimensions. You put him in a jail, you put him in Guantanamo, he can still operate. Because the way he was operating last night, he was not here physically. You may already have him in jail. I don't think so, because I think he was at the speech the other night. But the whole mind control thing is so much bigger than everybody suspected, including me. And I feel that I know a lot because of the people that I was associated with, the Cuban mercenaries, because that's what they were, the Cuban political mafia mercenaries. They used to call me Miss Washington when I was young because of my connection with Washington, which was not of my choosing. I think it's really, really interesting. When I was complaining about my handler, who's Cuban mercenary mafia, and I went to his daughter twice for her to help me to get this guy off my back, let me live. What he told her, from what I understand, is that I was just jealous because he didn't want to be with me anymore. My God. It's so unfair. I'm not sure that my kids didn't believe that. I'm sure a lot of other people did. And like I said to them, when you have a handler that kills people at the drop of a hat, you're going to really behave very nicely, especially if he is in the social group your children are in. He knows where your grandkids are. You're obviously going to be really cooperative. It is so unfair. You guys are doing all that stuff in Washington. You got all these new people. We're a nice group. You're going to take this taken care of. What about those of us that are still here and that are handlers, our controls, and all the other little people just want us gone and want us dead? So now I'm going to say something. One of my followers sent me an email this morning. She had a dream about my son. I don't talk about my kids. I don't. And then it got kind of messy, the dream, and then she was attacked. And she said it took her several hours to be able to get out from under the spirit that had been attached to her during this energetic attack. And I knew exactly what she was telling me because from several sources, I'm being told that this Cuban mafioso group, the mercenaries that are in Miami and are still operating, are very angry that I haven't been able to unalive me. They've hired people, professionals, to take me down. The threats haven't worked for a long time. And I've known that one of them in particular, which I'm going to describe her, and I'm not saying her name because then I'll get another lawyer saying, hey, I don't think I'll get that any longer. She is so angry at me that she wants to hurt me via my children. So that dream that my follower had, that at the end of the email, she was saying she felt it was kind of like about her. She didn't quite understand why my son's face would have been in her dream. They've never seen my kids. I don't talk about my kids. So here you go. Those of you that are listening, if you think that I am going to cooperate, if my family is not taken care of, you have another thing coming. Okay? In the Cuban mercenary group, they're still operating. Their santeros, their black magicians are still operating. They're not quite as free. They know that time is kind of up, but they're still operating. They still have us. We have within our group, I'm talking about my family, we have one of the operatives that if you ask anybody about her, they'll say she's crazy. Ha 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 ha. She's crazy. Well, Miss Crazy hates my guts and wants to do something to one of my kids to make me pay. So here's a description. She worked for the Miami Police Department, the same police department where when they got a new police chief, he went on national TV and he said, he's Cuban. Wow, there's a Cuban mafia. And then when he was questioned, he said, no, no, no. And then the Cuban mafia, who were the ones who brought him to be the head of the police, went after him and fired him. And right now there is, in federal court, there's a lawsuit that he instituted. He said, this Cuban mafia, these are the people I'm talking about. They're worse than Castro. Castro never did any of the stuff these people did. Never. Never. Most bad guys don't do the level of sickness of this group. Okay, but they're not limited to Miami. I'm talking about the ones that okay, so she was part of the Miami police and then she retired and then she went into Homeland Security. Who is it? Bondi's in charge of Homeland Security. Pay attention. This person is still operating. Yeah, I know she disappeared for 2 or 3 weeks. Her husband is desperate. He can't get her to stop being crazy. She's still crazy. Nobody can stop her. Why aren't you stopping her? Okay, so she was in the Miami police. She's a female. All you have to do is say, do you know so and so? And they'll go, she's crazy, because she is. She's sick, 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 sick. Then after Homeland Security, which she left, she went into something else. I think she was in the department where they go after the bad policeman. Huh. Okay. She's still operational. She is sick. If anything happens to any of my kids or grandkids, something big is going to happen and nobody's getting any cooperation from me. I'm telling you now, nobody is getting any cooperation from me. This is no way to live. This is no way to negotiate. This is no way to take care of this. I don't care that you want to pick them up all at the same time. You're not thinking about people like us. You're not thinking about that. You're just thinking of making a clean sweep. You know what? Make a clean sweep tonight. Tonight, make a clean sweep. Okay, so then in the news, in X, they're talking about Watergate. Oh, Watergate was all about sex trafficking. Well, I don't really think so, but I can tell you this. I was told by Washington that I was not allowed to read for the Cuban mercenary mafiosos politicals. Not allowed to read what happened in Watergate. Not allowed to speak to them about what happened in Watergate. Well, they don't pay attention to Washington or to anybody. They are such brats, out of control, egomaniacs. So they come to see me and I go, I can't talk to you. You know that. I'm not allowed to talk to you guys. Go away. I had just had a child that was 10 days old and they took my kid in a cardboard box and they walked out the door and they said, as soon as you're willing to cooperate, call us. My kid is 50 years old now. Those people are still fully operational. What is the matter with you guys that are in charge? What is the matter with you guys that are in charge? Take care of this. The Cuban mercenaries, I love Cubans. I chose to marry a Cuban. If you ask my kids, they're going to tell you they're Cuban. You ask me what I am, I'm going to tell you I'm Cuban. It's not Cubans. It's a group that was groomed by the U.S. military. Got it? They weren't groomed by Castro. No, 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 no. They were groomed by this country. And I think that's the thing that's going to, not them, but all of the things that this government did through the military, through a secret, and you go, oh no, that's the deep state. You know what? The guy that stood by me when I was in the water in the Everglades, and they handed me a plastic baby doll and I was drugged. They made me think that it was alive, and they said I couldn't get out of the water with the baby, which was a plastic baby doll. That was U.S. military. You can't get away from that. You cannot get away from that. Okay? You can't get away from that. but you can take care of it today. Why are we that are victims, where it's been proven beyond a shadow of a doubt, why are we still in a place of danger? You're trying to protect the country? Maybe that's what a lot of people tried to do. And look where we ended up. I'm telling you, I'm not cooperating. I'm telling you now. So the whole Watergate thing, now they're trying to kind of like position it that it was all about sex trafficking. You know that Nixon had a compound in Florida. You know that his best friend was Cuban mafia. You know that, right? Now, yes, they already had the sex trafficking stuff because that was started. It wasn't started. The Operation Peter Pan, which was Cuban kids, uh, was happened here in Florida, Miami. Okay, so Nixon was his best friend. What was his name? Rebozo, I think his name was. You need to take care of this. I'm telling you, if anything happens to any of my kids or grandkids, or their people, or the people they associate with, I'm telling you. So the whole Watergate thing is now going to be about sex trafficking. I have to assume that there was an angle there. There's no way there wasn't. But maybe we're trying to shine light in other places rather than where we need to look. I don't know. There was something else the other day. They were going off on who the JFK thing. And I was like, wow, okay, let's travel all over the universe. Let's travel all over the universe when we have it right here. Thank God for X, by the way. So, by the way, this female who was Miami police, Homeland Security, and then she works for this whatever. I don't actually know where she works now. I think everybody kind of walked away from her because she is so crazy. I think that she ended up hooking up with my handler. Whoa. Well, that's a little bit bad because my handler's still trying to get me back, and she is a crazy woman. So I think that's a piece of the puzzle. I don't really know. These people are all sick. She is particularly sick to where her instincts for survival, and she's a mind control victim, by the way. She's a mind control victim. She has, I believe, if I remember correctly, a brother who became totally mentally ill in the mind control program. Cuban. She's Cuban. Okay? Not a relative, but unfortunately participated in too many things that had to do with my family because of her connections with other people. And basically, everybody would say the same thing. She's crazy. But not like, wow, she's like a little bit crazy. No, like she's crazy. Like, don't cross her. Well, I'm in Miami with what feels like zero protection with a crazy lady that 2 days ago, because I remote viewed it and I wasn't looking for it, I saw a meeting in which the rest of the Cuban mercenaries said, we need to drop this. We can't keep doing all this black magic. We need to drop this. We need to go home and then let this all fall out. They are being told, by the way, Trump, Bondi, whoever is in charge of this, they are being told that all of this is going to fall out and they may end up in jail for a while. And then after that, they'll regroup. But they're not being told that from within the Cuban political mafia mercenaries. They're being told that from people higher up, which I have to assume are in Washington. So they had a meeting, and actually, I could tell you the building where they had the meeting in, which I think should have been shut down. But the problem is, I gave that information to the mayor of Coral Gables, and I don't know what side he is on. You cannot be in politics unless these people are smiling on you. So, what did you do for them to smile on you? Or what is it that you're not doing so that they smile on you? I don't know. But I told them, you need to lock this building down or check it out or whatever. And I think the meeting was there. That's not important. The bottom line was that there was a group, I don't know, 6 or 8 people, and this female was there. She wasn't sitting down. She can't. She's too anxious. And they said, we're quitting. That's it. We're not doing any more, no more black magic, no more. We're being told that this is going to all fall out and we may end up in jail for a while, but then we'll all regroup and it'll. Well, and she was like, no. And they said, you need to stop this. And she, no, no. she may be taken down by that group. When she walked out of the door, they were discussing taking her down. The only problem is that the woman is she's like a snake. She's like a chameleon. She's all over the place. So she hooked up with my handler. Whoa, not a good thing. But she knew my handler. All those people know each other. They're parts, it appears they're part of what's it called, a coven, Coven. The witches, when they have, I don't know, the coven would be like a religious group, but with all the black magic. And their coven for these political mafiosos is really, really dark. This is the group of people that when I was in Cuba, and they were at that point working with the American CIA. I'm not going to repeat that story because it's just too humiliating and ugly. I'm telling you. And I know the Cuban mafia is listening to my chats now. They don't even wait for it to be, they're listening to it. If anything happens to anybody in my family, you've always been afraid of me. You should be even more afraid. Off of that subject, the worrisome thing about the map is the rattling of the Star of David talisman protection the Galactic Federations gave us. So obviously, those Epstein files went over to Bondi, I believe, and she said, well, we have to redact them. And everybody's like, you're supposed to give them out clean. No. Once she saw them, she said, we can't do this. I know why you can't do it, but you're going to have to do it. Bite the bullet. Get it out there. So now I'm going to say something else that sounds crazy. There was a plan. I'm sure they think the plan is still in place to use me as an example. Well, yeah, we did this stuff to kids, but look, Shining Star Frances, look how good she is. She unraveled string theory. She is helping kids. Look, this is not so bad. No. I'm not going to be used as anybody's cover story. From here on out, this is only about me and my kids. Are you listening? Me, my kids, my grandkids, their friends, their mates. That's all it's about. Anybody who thought that they were going to use me because I'm standing straight and I've done some great stuff and I have an established history and people tend to believe me, you're not going to be using me to cover up anything. I don't care what side of the aisle you are on. I don't care. Today, tomorrow, the next day, I only care about me and my family. That's it. That's it. Take care of it. Make me feel safe and secure, which I will only feel if my family is safe and secure. Okay? Take care of it. So this rattling is about the full reality about sex trafficking. Nobody's going to be shocked if Clinton and his wife is on that list. I'm not saying that they are. I don't know anything about them bad. Nobody's going to be shocked if Biden. Nobody is going to be shocked. Oh, now the whole thing, Ukraine is all about sex trafficking. Yeah, here, let's throw a stone over there, and then the wild animal or the guy who's following you will go over there. Okay, maybe. But that was out several days ago. This that changed the map was today. This is not the way we looked yesterday. Something shifted today. Yesterday, we had triple protection because we had Trump with his great speech. Okay. So Trump, don't lose any of what you felt when you were giving that speech. Don't lose it, regardless of what it is that you're going to have to let the public know. That's why you're here. Because you have the strength to do this. Now, the interesting thing about the stuff that's going to shake the foundations of everybody has to do with belief systems. We already know sex trafficking is about rape. Okay, so there's 6 different versions in kids and babies and men and okay. And how many, you get a young girl, she's kind of attractive. How many times can you give her to somebody during the day and how much does that add up? and a year, hundreds of thousands of dollars. That stuff is not going to take down the country. It's stuff that people don't even believe in, some of which I talk about here. Okay? One of the things I talked about yesterday was about the fact that the Mayans knew how to handle their spirit, which is their astral body, which most people don't know. From when they're born, they train the baby to work with their own spirit. Isn't that sweet? Okay, one of the reasons Atlantis went under is because they also knew how to handle the spirits of people. In other words, I am a person and I have a spirit that is only mine. But most people don't know that. They think that I die and then my spirit pops up. No, I always have it. It astral travels at night. It also, according to my followers, according to hundreds of them, at night and during the day, my spirit will show up when they have something bad happening. They're sick, there's something bad happening, they're getting attacked, and I show up and I help them out. My spirit. So my spirit can split into hundreds of times. It's not a split, you just create another one. And psychology, if they got a hold of this, they'd call it multiple personality. Great. They don't call it that anymore. They call it disassociative. It's not really. It's an ability of your spirit to duplicate itself as many times as necessary to achieve your intention. So in Atlantis, they learned how to enslave your spirit body. And I think that's where this is going, having to do with the mind control program. That's why I've said you have to be careful with just taking down everybody who did something wrong, because you don't know how they got there. And I suspect you can find it easily enough. But the whole thing, you don't even believe in spirits, regular spirits. You don't really believe it, that you have a spirit while your body's still alive. So when all this stuff starts to come out, which it will now, everybody's belief system is going to be totally shattered, including the president's. But why did we allow groups of people to know more than everybody else? Well, I can tell you, everybody else, the common people, my religion. No, that doesn't. Years ago, people would, when they found out that I worked with spirits, oh, you're working with the devil. The first thing Jesus Christ did when somebody was sick was to remove spirits. All of a sudden, you're working with spirits and you're working with the devil. So no, you can't talk about that. You can't teach about that. We can today. People are looser. But the things that we don't know, which is the stuff that I'm trying to teach, has allowed for people who do know these things to control us. You keep going to archaeological sites and going, oh, look, that looks like an airplane. Oh, well, that looks like an ET. Oh, well. What do you mean, oh, well? That wasn't a kid who drew that. Why are you dismissing it so easily? And it's an arrogance. You stay in this little box where you know everything. Well, the stuff you don't know is what can take. It's not going to take this. I was going to say could take this country down. It's not going to take this country down. There's going to be a lot of self-esteem issues with this country. And I would be really careful about looking down on the immigrants that I do believe should not be allowed to come into this country the way they've come in. Now, that's Biden's fault, not the immigrants. And but most of those know more about the things that you need to know in order to be able to get a grip on what I think is going to get released. By the way, in this program, I met with another person that was a mind control person, and she told me that they would choose. We all know the program that I was in is a continuation of the Nazi program after the Second World War. I was born in Europe right after the Second World, not right after, 48. My father was a Cuban that went into the US military. Actually, supposedly, my father went from Cuba to New York. He ended up in jail, which at that time From what we understand, it was Ellis Island, and he was recruited there by the US military. The US military, by the way, has a test that they give everybody, and that is called, I think it's called the Mississippi, I don't know what, Minnesota. It's a psychological test. And they can tell in that test who's going to be a really good robot. Trump, can you please write that down, or have your secretary write that down? I'm really angry. Who's in charge of the military? Oh, that really good-looking guy. I keep saying, Pentagon, got to pay attention to the hall. There's hall monitors in the Pentagon, and we don't hear anything about the Pentagon. Well, maybe that guy is more understated. I don't know. So the Nazi program looked, and the American program looked for the same type of people. If they're emotionally damaged, they've been abused, they've been abandoned, they're more susceptible, they're easier to control, it's easier to make them a robot. Also, indigenous people, which because they're more open to the other dimensions. So if you're going to do a mind control program where you're working from the other dimensions into the other dimensions, gaining power in the other dimensions, you want people that are a little bit operational. Mexican curanderas and their families, their genes. And there we go with the genes thing. Very dangerous arena. Who just bought that big, I think it was Ancestry.com, maybe not, a military type organization? I think it was BlackRock. They bought it. Now, why would they be interested in our DNA? I'll repeat the story of my friend who's a shaman from a mountain in Colombia, and he told me one of the times he was visiting that the Smithsonian went to that mountain and without permission took swabs of their children and took them back to the Smithsonian. Why would they want that? Well, I can tell you why they want that. The Germans were creating superhuman people. The people in the program that I am aware of, we ended up with superpowers. My IQ went from I don't actually know what to over 200 because of being in that program. Of course, it was mainly trauma-based, but that's the easiest way to turn people into robots or to get them really operational in the other dimensions. So this whole DNA, ancestry, lineage, I don't even want to talk about that today. You have to give me a second. You have to give me a second. Okay? Give me a second. I need to ask. Okay. Okay. So here, let's talk about bloodline. You know the book The Da Vinci Code and how people just like were wild over it? Well, I don't really know the details about the bloodlines they were talking about. I think it was Jesus Christ. I don't really know. But I can tell you that bloodlines are tracked and that people with certain bloodlines are never really free. From what I understand, and wouldn't it be nice if somebody let me know and I could see my file and know what people know about me that I don't know about? From what I understand, my father was Cuban, came to the United States. He was crazy too. Ended up in Ellis Island, got recruited by the US military, went to Europe, Germany. His sister-in-law ended up marrying one of the top three guys in what ended up being the American mind control program in Germany after the Second World War. They found the files, I guess, I don't know. They set up the program, and then I ended up being created for the program. What I understand is that my mother, who was German, wasn't his wife. She was of a lineage that such that the Germans, she was actually a prisoner of the Germans. They wanted her because they wanted her children. I ended up being one of her children. So I have wrestled with that information for years, and I think that the only reason I have not totally accepted it, because the people who told me that were the people within the military. I didn't come up with that story. And I think that maybe it's a self-esteem issue that, oh God, I'm so important, I would have royal blood, whatever. It doesn't really matter. The point of the matter is that program was to create superhuman beings, and they were well on their way. Now, I'm 77. That was a lot of years ago. What are they doing today? Well, maybe they're buying up Ancestry.com or 23andMe, and they have access to the DNA. With all the technology since then, what are they doing to the population? What are they creating? A super human race, and they'll control all the rest? I was going to say us. I don't even know where to put myself there. So I think that that's the stuff that's going to start coming out. And I don't want to put that out there as that is the stuff that's coming out. But I believe that that is the stuff that's going to rattle everybody to where, wait a second, we don't even believe in all of this stuff. And all of a sudden, we're finding out that this stuff that we don't believe in, such as spirits, astral bodies, ours is being controlled. And I do believe that those people in Congress that I think were nice people that we all liked before, and we don't understand why they would have done these things, we just don't get it. I do believe that they're mind controlled. Schiff, I think he's just a sick person. I think he had to have been through some stuff when he was young to be able to be this sick. I don't know. But this whole belief system, this whole spending all the money on archaeology and spending all the money on investigating all these things, and then just looking at it as if we were tourists and not really integrating that information, which could have been part of the base of information that we can operate from. That was obviously a plan. Keep us dumbed down, but that dumbing down is going to take us down completely. You know what? This country is going to really need my services, because the thing that I can do the quickest is to get people who just really want to die and give up and they're massively depressed, is to get them back up on their feet and to understand that whatever they're going through, they chose before they incarnated. That's the problem. You don't believe in reincarnation, then hey, what? When the day you were conceived, or was it the day your physical body came out of the vagina? I'm so sorry that you have a limited belief system. But when you tell people you chose this and you chose it for a really, really, really good reason, it makes them feel better. And then you go, this is like your mission. This was my mission. I've said it 1,000 times. See if I can get people to hear, for them to look at what it is that they had bad going on, because they might be pulling that thread. They'll find out what it is that before they were even aware, they felt that they wanted to contribute to mankind, to humanity. Okay? So I would like to end this on a higher note, reminding people, get this taken care of, get my family protected, make me feel like everybody's protected. Okay? Do it. There are no more tomorrows. We had a nice time yesterday. I don't remember how it happened, but I realized, I guess in talking about it here, the Mayans said, I'm going to take off the chat because I have no idea what they're talking about, but I do not want to get distracted. The Mayans said about the subpersonalities coming up, and that's what is really going to be a mess, and that's this mess in the country. How do you think this Bernie and this Elizabeth Warren feel? They're coming out fighting, but believe me, if they weren't using that energy, they'd be ready to throw themselves off a building, because it certainly appears that they, whatever, I'm not going to go into that. So anyway, so I was like, And I had a dream, and I went, you know what? I have a part of me that I'm still not privy to, not in control of, which would mean that somebody else is in control of. So I went ahead and I went after it. And I have always noticed that the witches have long chins. Okay? Not the male witches, the female witches. Maybe they have long chins. So I went, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and start doing a mantra. And I don't remember which mantra I started. And then I started to tap on my chin. Oh my God. Yep, found it. And we did it last night in our Mantrista movement group. And it was really, 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 really interesting. And then I remembered that there are the two largest meridians in acupuncture. I'm going to put them up on screen because this is interesting. Because if you have any issues here, which we all do, this is where we're the worst, everyone. Okay. Let me show you. We have two major channels, acupuncture channels. And then we have this blue one that comes from the bottom of the body up the front of the body, and then it ends on the chin. And it's a conception vessel, yin, which is female. And then you have the one that goes up the back and ends up in the upper lip. And that's the male governor channel. Okay. So I realized, okay, so this, which is where this subpersonality is attached to, not generated from, this is female, and that was accurate. And that was when I remembered the two meridians. The trick of the matter here is that in esoteric, and maybe I'm going off too much of on a tangent, but when you're into all this alternative stuff and meditation and psychic abilities, really, really deep, they tell you that the gurus, their tongue, they always have it touching the roof of their mouth. That I always have my tongue touching the roof of my mouth, but apparently that's not a natural position. But the reason for the touching of the tongue on the roof of the mouth is to connect those two meridians. The male ends here. And by the way, this part of you corresponds to your spleen, which has to do with children. So I have a permanent skin lesion here. Children, that's how they threaten me. Then the female one comes up here. So when you hold your tongue at the top of your inside of your mouth, if you don't have congestions, you connect male female. And there we go back to the whole electricity thing. When I was trying to find out what is electricity, I looked it up on the internet. I asked people that had university degrees, engineer, whatever. Well, they don't really know. The bottom line was they don't really know. Science does not really know. And then my gardener, I think well, that's really easy. You take the blue cable and the red cable, you put them together and you get electricity. You get light. So I had the congestion here of the, I'm going to fade off because I have to figure out if I tell you what the memory was that split me, whatever. The congestion here that created this subpersonality due to an incredible trauma. If I didn't have that there, and I didn't have the trauma having to do with spleen, having to do with children, these two would be together, and I would be a combination, a melding together of male and female, and I would create light, which is actually what we all want to do. Sometimes you'll notice the screen, everything will get much whiter. My energy field is very strong, whatever. So that is very exciting. So you might want to, being at this is associated with witches in Disney movies, you might want to tap and do a mantra. And just please, God, help me with my intention to miraculously release. That's it. Because you probably have something there. If you're not creating light in your life, and most of us are not. Okay, I wanted to end it in a more positive note. This sex trafficking thing, it's not just about sex. It's not just about orgasm. It's about things that people are going to really struggle to deal with because they have absolutely no baseline knowledge, because they do not know, excuse me, that we are an assemblage of bodies. And the people that know that we're an assemblage of bodies know how to control the parts of us that are in the dimensions that are not physical, that you can't see physically. Okay, I am sure I'll be back, and I'm going to expect some kind of a movement having to do with my life. I'm telling you, pick up that crazy lady. Pick up that crazy lady. Miami Police Department, Homeland Security. Then she was in some kind of program going after the bad police officers, and I don't know who she's associated with now, because I think everybody's walking away from her because she's so crazy. But she's focused on me. Okay. Thank you for joining me. Wow. And yes, I chose this incarnation, and we're going to keep going, and everything's going to be fine. But you know what? Everybody needs to step up to bat. Stop hiding your head in the sand and stop waiting for later. And you know what? This is a very strong country. We have somebody in charge who looks like he listens to other people. He's certainly listening to Elon Musk, and that's going well. Let's get the show on the road. We're going into the golden age, and we're not going to be allowed into the golden age until all of this mess is finished, okay? Love you a lot, and thank you for joining me. Bye.